Yes, sir. All right, I made sure our music was better. I'm in a more upbeat mood. But last week, I was like, just stop my music real quick. I'm like, that's it. I'm getting right into Jim Knowles. So,
Yeah.
so we're
hey,
back.
for the last time, let's talk a little Jim Knowles.
So,
As
okay.
you did here on Twittercast, Jim Knowles is not going to be the defensive coordinator of
Yeah,
the
so
Oklahoma
we're
Sooners.
only like, this is what me and Steve were talking before we came on. We're only going to start this with football because that's what pays the bills. We're not going to stay on it long because we got a lot to touch on OU basketball. I've got a little rant to go into. So Steve got to have a few rants during football season. I've got a rant for basketball. So Steve, we'll let you start on the Jim Knowles saga that is finally no more.
Yeah, hey, it's one of those character arcs that finally ends. The special guest star is off the show at this point. I do think I've learned a few things about this. One, and maybe this isn't the most popular take. Maybe it's because we've had Matt Blackwell and Parker Thune on this program. I mean, be mad at those guys if you want, guys, but like what they're doing it for money. What Jeremy and I are doing, we're doing it for fun. And anybody who really stepped back and looked at the perspective of this knew by last week when we talked, this wasn't going to happen. And that's the reason Jeremy and I both told you, we were definitely didn't think it was going to happen once Penn State got involved. I mean, this is a situation. Jim Knowles didn't want to beat Ohio State. Maybe he's a hard guy to get along with. Maybe Ryan Day is a hard guy to get along with. Whatever it was, he wanted to be out of there. I mean, how about this? Guy wins a national championship, which is what you wanted to do. You would think as a coach your whole career and they don't even want you at the championship parade. It's a jerk move to call Brent Venables and then back out essentially. And then like he did I'm not going to talk to anybody thing last week. I mean, how uncool is that? I mean, don't do that. That's not, here's the deal. Would I be spending this different if Jim Knowles was the Oklahoma Sooners defensive coordinator? Yeah, but I still would have said it's a bad way to do it. It was bad business. Yeah. And, he's not. It's going to be okay. Before we talk about who else it might be, Jeremy, just a few thoughts you have on how that was handled. I, for one, I'm a little bit frustrated that Brent didn't close the deal with him, but Brent's an honorable guy. Brent's not going to try to close that deal. Brent's like, hey, I've won a national championship defensive coordinator. I know how much work you've got going on. Hey man, don't worry about it. We'll talk about this after the game's over. Yeah. And that's what happened. And his agent and him, Spaceballs 2, the quest for more money came through. He got it. The Swartz be with him for all I care.
Yeah, and that's why he reached out to Brent. Is because he's trying to build the price. He knew exactly where he wanted to go. He wanted to go to Penn State. So when they lost their DC, it was like he'd already put a little birdie in Venables' ear that he wasn't even thought about with Venables and OU. And then now, all of a sudden, oh crap, we can get Jim Knowles. We're not going to spend, guys, it's just not a good business decision to spend $3.1 million on a defensive coordinator when you have one of the best defensive. I understand it takes him away from being a head coach. That's not the point. And to piggyback off what you said about these insiders and stuff like that, I was talking to somebody, I don't remember what platform it was on. They said, what sites do you subscribe to? And guys, I will tell you, because I do this podcast, I purposely do not get on sites. I don't subscribe to them because not that I don't listen to their stuff. It's just that I don't want to come on here and people say you just take what's off a site and you take it to your pod. That's not how I do business. This is a fan page. This is a fan podcast. So everything that you hear from me and Steve is all in our minds. Are we influenced maybe by something that we listen to on Official 40? Yeah. But if you listen to us, most of the time you hear us say, I heard this on the Unofficial 40, or I heard George say this. So like Steve said, those guys, are they going to get everything right? Absolutely not. They're not. But also too, That's a tough job. That's a really tough job.
And I mean, like, it's one thing. I mean, I would hate for somebody to, follow me around all day and point out every mistake, that I made. And,
yeah.
Those guys, I mean, and you say, hey, well, no, that's what you're doing. You're literally having a podcast to talk about the mistakes that Brent Venables and all those guys make. Yeah, I do. But I don't think 80,000 people are ever going to show up and watch most of these people do their job. That's a different thing. And they've got big salaries, and these guys don't. But I don't want to get bogged down into that. Jeremy and I are fans of all those guys. They're working hard. Most of those guys love the Sooners, just like listeners of this pod do, just like Jeremy and I do. But you know who doesn't love the Sooners? Jim Knowles. So screw him.
He went back, and my last thought on it is he went home. It's where he wanted to go. That's honestly where he wanted to go. Was it crappy that he used Ohio State and OU to raise the price up? Yeah. But is it smart on his part? Damn right it is.
And I mean, like, let's see if he can recruit. I mean, we don't know. That's the name of the game long term. Let's see if he can recruit.
Well, Steve, let me ask you, if your wife comes to you and says, let's say I want to go back to Muskogee, see if Hilldale's got an opening, and I want you to go there. Well, you call another school and say, hey, I'd be really interested to come coaching there just because you want to raise the price. Well, you end up getting more money from Hilldale or Muskogee or whatever, get more money from them than what you would before. Does that make you a bad person? No, it makes you a smart businessman.
Right. I mean, it's a business, guys. And and that's the deal. I mean, do I think Brent Venables now hates Jim Knowles? No. I mean, he understands it's a business. There was a time that Brent Venables was supposed to be the head coach at Auburn. Brent didn't take the Auburn job. Brent stayed at Clemson as the DC because the head coaching job he wanted was at Oklahoma. But guess what, guys? He got like over $1 million raise to stay and be the DC at Clemson. It happens. That's the business. Now, what's going to happen at Oklahoma? Nate Dreiling, however I've heard that a couple of different ways, is the name that keeps getting thrown out there that I keep reading and keep hearing about. And before you go and you look and say right now what this guy currently is, he's the DC at Arkansas State. He was not that last year. This last year he was hired to be the DC at Utah State, which has been a pretty decent program in the Mountain West. They had some scandal things go on. He gets hired as a DC, has to end up being the interim head coach, gets that about 2 weeks before the season's going to start. They go 4-8 in the Mountain West. So not a great year. Obviously, they want to go a different situation. But if you really want to look at what his defenses did, he's a young guy, kind of the same mold as Arbuckle. What his defenses did, if you go back and look a little bit, is it New Mexico or New Mexico State? I'm pretty sure it's New Mexico State.
Yeah.
And that's notoriously one of the worst jobs in the country. And he made market improvement there. The stats, if you want the exact stats, I heard some of that, like Jeremy talked about on the unofficial 40. I think it was George gave some stats on that. But just as you're doing your own research, that I know anyone who listens to this pod is the same kind of person who's going to go and deep dive a little bit of Sooner stuff. But go back, look at maybe a little bit Utah State, a little bit New Mexico State. Once again, what's the name of the game? What am I worried about? Recruiting here. As far as coaching defense, we got that covered. We got dudes over there. Mm-hmm. Brent Venables is a great defensive mind. I think he's made really great hires on the defensive staff. Let's get somebody who can go and recruit. Because honestly, after this set of linebackers, after the Kips and Kobe's, I don't know who's behind those guys. I really don't. And so, that was my gripe even before he left on Alley was I didn't see these big-time linebackers coming in. So I'm not worried we don't have a DC, but I am worried we don't have a linebackers coach to get out there and start recruiting.
Yeah, and I think really the only question mark, I've been really impressed with Arbuckle so far out in recruiting. I know this name is blasphemy, but he's got a Riley feel. He's that younger guy. He's, the hip to the recruits. The only question mark, me and Steve were talking beforehand, I'll let you touch on this a little bit, Steve, is what we're doing on the quarterback next year. I mean, It's been Jaden O'Neal forever, and I don't know if they are trying to rush his decision or make sure he's stuck with us, but
You
they
know,
brought
and
another
it
name
sounds
in.
to me, what little bit I've got to look into that. Bo Bentley is the other guy, and Bo Bentley's a Texas guy. Jaden O'Neill's a California guy. Jaden O'Neill's been really, really good. Kind of how these offensive classes work is you kind of get the quarterback first, and then that quarterback through 7-on-7 connections, through all the different things that they do, they're kind of one of your lead recruiters on this too. We signed the Daniel Odom kid, who I think was a top 150 overall player, like a top 10 receiver, and got him from St. John's Bosco out in California, which is one of the big programs out in California. So, to me, Jaden O'Neill has looked really good at some of these, All-American games, combine type things, but I've heard the staff really, really likes Bo Bentley. And so, to me, why not both? We're in the
Does
transfer
quarterback
portal era.
competition make
If these guys both like Arbuckle and they both like what's going on, why not both? Now, the question is, the answer to all your questions is money. Do we have the money?
You've got
I don't
this
know.
measly little guy that's still there, Michael Hawkins, that they say
Yeah.
fits Arbuckle system perfectly. So you will listen to the recruiting and listen to what happens. The name we won't hear much of is Michael Hawkins, and I think he likes it because he's quietly going to go about his business. I mean, Hawkins is an OU guy, and his dad went to OU. I think he loves OU. For him to stay here is, I think, shows you that, because when they brought him Mateer, he didn't even flinch. He was like,
and I mean, here's what I hope happens, Jeremy. Let's hope Mateer comes in, tears it up, leaves after next year. Okay. So, now we've got 4 quarterbacks in the room right now. You've got Mateer, you've got Hawkins, you've got New, who was the guy that we stole from OSU in the signing period. And we got Gonzalez. I'm not really sure on his first name, who came from one of the Carolinas and transferred over here. Those are our 4 quarterbacks. If Mateer goes out and has a great year, guys, he's going to be gone. That's 1. And you got to think that the Gonzalez guy's a senior, so that's 2. So we're going to have to put 2 quarterbacks in there. If you could put 2 top 100 freshmen in there and just tell them, hey, you're sitting behind Michael Hawkins, or if, obviously I think both guys are going to be here next year. I think Mateer and Hawkins are both here next year. But when we're talking in the next season after that, then I think it's one or the other. I think either Mateer has moved on to NFL, whatever, or at that point, Hawkins like, okay, I've got to go somewhere and start. But anyway, you're going to lose 2 quarterbacks. You're going to gain 2 quarterbacks. If you can get 2 top 100 high school guys, why not?
Yeah. I mean, the more quarterbacks, you know what? That is a good thing about transfer portal, is if it doesn't work out and you find somebody out of these 4, they can always transfer somewhere else. So,
and I mean, here's the deal, guys, and I'm not saying that either one of these guys is Arch, but you tell me Arch couldn't go start somewhere else? Arch stayed at Texas. I mean, number 1, he's getting a lot of NIL money, but let me newsflash everybody: the Mannings don't need it. Okay. Number 2, he wants to play for Stark. He likes being at UT, and he wants to play for Stark. It's a relationship. So if Mateer has got, obviously Mateer has that relationship with Arbuckle, but, O'Neal was the number 1 guy recruiting O'Neal was Seth Luttrell. Obviously, Seth's not there anymore. Okay. He's got a good relationship with BV. So Arbuckle creates a relationship with him. Maybe Arbuckle has a relationship with Bo Bentley. That's fine, guys. I mean, we want these people here. Don't worry about having too many quarterbacks. It's like too much money. There's no such thing. Okay. Girl too pretty, car too fast, being too lucky. Okay. Let's quit your 90s country quote.
You would go classic country, honestly.
Yeah. But
God,
it's not
I'm
a
gonna have
bad
that
thing.
damn song in my head the rest of the night.
But, obviously, Jeremy, I mean, let's just talk a little more recruiting here before we go into the dirge of love that is hoops. But, once again, the demise of at least our recruiting ability has been greatly exaggerated. Those guys are out there. Those guys are hitting the trails. They're out going after big names. I mean, Chavis is going after 2 of the top edges in the country. You've got Beatonbow. Did you see the pictures of Beatonbow in the family where nice job, Bill. Everyone else had their shoes off, jackwag, except you. I would hate to be, hate to be behind that family at the buffet. They could do some damage. Those are some big humans. But
Not to
those are the
mention
kind
they
of cats
caught
we,
Bimbo smiling in some pictures, and they
it's,
enlarged him. He's pissed about that. So.
Yes, exactly. But, great to see those guys out there hitting the trails, doing what it is. The only negative I've got is, who I did see in a couple of pictures, Jeremy?
Joe John.
It's like a bad check, guys. He keeps coming back. No matter how many times you write it, he just keeps bouncing back. So I'm going to take an L. I've taken a few L's on this pod, and maybe I'm making this sacrifice so I can be wrong again and take another L. I'll take it. But I think Joe John's going to be here next year, guys. I do too.
I think now we're kind of past him leaving.
It is what it is, man. He's going to be here. I don't like it. You don't like it. Unless Joe John's immediate family is listening to it, nobody likes it. But BV's cool with it. Whatever, man. Like, let's just hope that Davion Mitchell. Once again, we go back to relationships and we go back to setting. Davion Mitchell at one time was the number one recruit at tight end in the country for his class. Yeah. That class should be early enrolling in January. Let's hope he balls out this spring, this summer, and more importantly, next fall.
I think he matured as the season went on, and golly, what's a tight end that he came to the transfer portal? People gave him crap. I know it. No, the one we just got. God, I can't remember his name. This is great. This is great podcasting. It shows you that I do all the deep digging into our portal. Right. But the tight end we got out of the portal, it is what it is. They said the workouts, like he's killing it, and like he looks so good, and a lot of that's I'm like.
But here's the deal, guys. Like in the new offense that we're in, it's really more of an H-back system than it is a true tight end system. And I'm really excited. Koenig's supposed to be getting some run at H-back. And, maybe that's going to be the same much ado about nothing of, different people flipping sides, Kobe Johnson playing offense or, all that sort of stuff. But, we all saw Koenig, fumble return, all that stuff for a touchdown. Koenig's got speed. He's got a great Twitter game. Maybe that guy was just built to be an H-back.
Hey, who he reminds me of? You remember when me and Steve were in high school, our rivals Fort Gibson, where Teddy Lehman's from. Teddy played every position, and he played H-back. And imagine Teddy Lehman playing H-back in 4A, and nobody could tackle him. He just kind of handed it to him, and he just bulldozed everybody, and he was extremely fast. So
the B button was always pressed when Teddy was running across the line.
So I could kind of see Koenig being like that. So I had to make sure I pronounced Koenig right because we've been told that we pronounce names wrong. Yeah. And we'll get to that.
Sorry. I'm a small school basketball guy. My bad. Wrote it on my notes this week.
Hey, let's okay. So
contrary to my wife's opinion, I'm not perfect.
Yeah, my wife thinks I'm perfect too.
Yeah.
So
we know they don't listen to the pod, so it's fine.
Yeah. Lindsay's like, I think I listened to one pod of yours. I'm like, can you at least subscribe to it? So we talked a lot of football, but let's dig into OU freaking basketball.
Do you want to just go right into your rant, Jeremy? Because if so, I'll clear the runway.
Yes, and so I pulled a Steve and made some notes.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, I'm going to start out by saying one of my good friends that I grew up with, April, her daughter goes to Dale, so she knows Dayton Forsythe, and so I get all the lowdown on him. I know he's a good kid, and to me, I love watching him play. I am the biggest Forsythe lover there is. I'm going to go into this and say Dayton Forsythe should be starting. I think we should bring Fears off the bench. I don't care. Give Fears the same amount of minutes you're giving him now, but Dayton Forsythe has earned his spot to start. And I got this off TJ Eckert on Twitter, X. I call it Twitter. I don't care what people call it. If they call it X, I don't give a crap. It's Twitter to me. It'll always be Twitter. I don't care. They can put any letter you want on it. but he said his starting lineup should be Forsythe, Miles, Goodine, Moore, and Godwin. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. But fears, like we're just talking about Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell needs to mature, needs to get ready because he was supposed to be a senior in high school. You know what fears is? A senior in high school. So he's going to make mistakes. And he is an AAU basketball player. That's what most of these guys that are highly drafted or supposedly lottery picks, they play a lot of one-on-one basketball. That doesn't fit our system. It doesn't. So if he's going to pull this one-on-one crap, and I'm so sick of him dribbling into the corner or dribbling into double teams and then wanting to jump pass. It's like, if you watch Forsythe play, the kid's got a heck of a basketball IQ. I said that last pod, I said he reminds me of Keaton Page. When Keaton Page came to OSU, he was a small school kid that had a smart basketball IQ and wasn't the biggest scorer at first. Now, later on in his career at OSU, and this is what I think Forsythe will be too, is he became a scorer, but he got everybody involved. We don't need Forsythe to score right now. I mean, have you watched the Goodine stroke? Goodine is a shooter. He's a three-point shooter. He's got a beautiful stroke. Forsythe's got a beautiful stroke. Both those guys need to get looks at three. But when Forsythe drives, he draws the pressure of the interior, kicks it out, you get open looks. When Fears draws the pressure of the interior, he still tries to shoot it. You cannot shoot it over these bigs in the SEC. I about said Big 12. In the SEC. And not to mention, we said this before, Godwin he's playing role that he was not meant to play at the University of Oklahoma. He was a preferred walk-on, and we have him playing like a 4-star center, and he is not that. He will never be that.
He's only that against OSU.
Yes. Yeah, he looked. Yeah, can you like if we could get that one? If we could just play OSU every game, we'd be good. But guys, at halftime last night, it was 28-9 in rebounds. We finished 47-19 in boards. Not to mention Dayton Forsythe that I've just been ranting about led us in rebounds with 4. We had 19 rebounds the whole game. And A&M's offense is not, I mean, they can't hit the outside shot. Their offense, and I texted this to Steve last night, is shoot the ball and go get a rebound. You know what that is, guys? That's effort. And when I see guys not giving effort, I'm sorry, this is like the old school mentality of me. And that's why I get so mad about his Fears. I watch Fears standing around. I watch Dayton Forsythe get his nose dirty, get his eye blacked and bloody all over the court in Arkansas. And he's still getting in there. Fears is, God rest his soul, you hole in it on the outside. And you cannot do that. Like, you got to show effort. Rebounding is effort, and we don't have it. So, yeah. Rant done. Now, let's see what you think about it, because I like that.
I've got quite a few thoughts.
Before I give it to you, wait a second. Before I give it to you, I want to see more Forsythe. I thought the game last night changed whenever Forsythe got 4 fouls.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, the officiating last night was freaking brutal. That is some of the worst officiating I've ever seen. And this is me wearing crimson colored glasses, but we could literally not touch them. And poor Jalen Moore goes up and gets destroyed, nothing called. Yeah. So I'm not giving the refs a break.
Quick question before I go into it. What was worse last night, Jeremy, the announcers or the officials?
I think I asked you last night. I said, did these announcers go to A&M? They were so excited that the crowd called a review. I go, that's not legal.
And on that play, how could anyone watch that and be like, oh my God, he got hammered? Because that's why it went off. I mean, it's like, I mean, good Lord. I mean, it's like last Boy Scout and shooting somebody in the end zone to score a touchdown. I mean, like, come on. But I got to stop my 90s references here. I'm losing our audience. But I've got multiple thoughts. And, you know, just to kind of put a bow on this, one of my friends is J.R. Rollo, he's the color analyst for TU basketball. He played at TU, and I was talking with him today. We were talking basketball. He was griping about TU basketball, and I was griping about OU basketball. And you know, we were just talking about rebounding disparity, and you know, and all that stuff. And like what Jeremy said, it's a lot of effort. It is. We also didn't do a very good job of adjusting. Like A&M takes shots, what I would call out of system. And like when they take those shots, a lot of times you're not like in the traditional block out sense. And I mean, the expression I like to use is this hit and get. You know, you got to hit, you got to make contact, and you got to go get it. Something the announcers did say that I thought was true is a lot of the rebounds in the SEC are tip rebounds. In other words, the first person's going to get that, it's going to tip it. And then it's just an effort play. It's a hustle play to go and get it. But it takes all five of you doing that. And Jeremiah Fears, you know, in half of our last 4 games has been completely non-existent. You know, 0 last night, 4 games ago. I mean, that's just not going to get it done when this team is built for him to do that. And if you just want to look big picture at the Porter Moser experience, you know, traditionally what you can say about Porter is those kids are going to play hard defensively. And I don't feel like our first shot defense was bad yesterday. I really don't. But the defensive possession is not over until you get that defensive rebound. Yeah. But offensively, and you know, this is where our struggles continue to happen. We're still trying to run an offense like what he ran when he was at Loyola Chicago with the Crutwig kid. We don't have that. You can't run offense through Sam Godwin. You can't. And there's nothing against Godwin, but you can't. Now, when we had success, I thought it was a positive thing if Jalen Moore was being more assertive. We were trying to get him in plus situations. I mean, being a basketball coach is like being a coach in anything else. You want to put your best people in the best situations. And when we got the ball to Jalen Moore and gave him space to get downhill, he was really good. And like Jeremy said, I thought it was a bad no call there when the game was kind of back and forth. He goes in and I think gets fouled and they don't call it. And then we have a phantom and one on the next end. But that's life on the road. That's just that is what it is. And you've got to get better. And you got to keep them off the free throw line. Now, they shoot an ungodly amount of free throws. Yeah. Do they hit them at a higher rate than normally do? Yeah. But when you get beat like that, you have no one to blame but yourself. Yeah. And here's the deal, guys. We've got to win 5 more games. We got to win 5 more. We've won 15. We've got to win 5 more. Reporters getting fired. It's just
where do you see those wins coming from?
And I mean, I don't. Jeremy is the deal. I mean, we've got Vanderbilt at home Saturday. Vanderbilt's ranked, and like, there's no way, and excuse my French, hell, we should lose that game. But if we lose that game at home, I mean, you might as well. It's a wrap. I mean, then there's not games to catch up. You know, I mean, my glass half full thing is, you know, you win that game. You know, you've got to go beat Texas on the road. You've got to win some home games against some teams that are ranked in the teens right now. And then you're going to have to probably win a home game against a top 10 team. And I mean, here's the deal. We have shown the ability to do that. I was at Lloyd Noble a few years ago. I think it was 2 years ago when we beat number 1 ranked Alabama and beat the brakes off of them.
I'll tell you, we dominated that whole game.
The picture sitting behind my desk at my office at school is a picture of Aaron and Allie with the court storming right behind them of that game. That's sitting on my desk, and I see that every day. And but that's the experience. We can't just say, well, if we shoot it well, we're going to win. We've got to adjust. We've got to do those things. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And that goes back to Jeremy saying we should start dating Forsythe. I'm 100% good with that. I'm also 100% good with coming out and maybe telling Jeremiah Fears, we're going to run the first 5 plays for you, and you're going to start, and we're going to see what you got. And, you know, I believe in you. Maybe he's trying to do that. I don't know. I'm not in practice every day. But whatever Porter's doing right now isn't working.
Well,
I don't understand why. I mean, like, he refuses to shoot jump shots. And I mean, like early in the year, his pull-up jump shot was great. His three was good. He refuses to shoot those shots. I mean, this is like first or second possession yesterday. We make a good drive, make the extra pass. He drives, and instead he had an easy 10-foot pull-up or a floater. He tries to get all the way to the rim, and they can't decide where he's going to finger roll, thinks he's going to get fouled, doinks it on the bottom of the rim. And after that, his countenance was down. He was done. And that's on Porter.
Yeah.
Porter has got to solve that.
Well, me and you both grew up playing basketball and played high school basketball together. His confidence is shot. He's not, but also too with his jump shot. Like he has no confidence in his jump shot. That's why he's trying to drive in there because he doesn't think he can make that. That's a problem as a point guard. But also too, one thing I can tell you with Porter, and I don't understand why he didn't do this with Fears. He might have called it, but Fears just did his own thing. But he ran some double screens up top, which I really like. Those sets.
Like the best offense we had all night was when we had the short roll. We were hitting the guy on the short roll at the nail, and then we kind of had the option of a baseline dive or the kick to the wing. And I was like, oh my God, offense, a freaking set. And that was something JR and I were talking about today. It's like, you can run sets in modern college basketball. You can.
Well, like you said, we're not at the practice, and he might be like, I have kids that I coach that we run sets, and I have ideas that I throw out there. They don't run them. And so Fears might see something.
But do you know whose fault that is, Jeremy? Like if your kids don't run sets.
It's Porter Moser.
It's your fault. It's Porter Moser's fault.
Yes.
I was giving my girls basketball coach, who's doing a good job. We're 16-3. We're ranked 6th in the state. He's doing a good job, and I was giving him a hard time. He was complaining about one of the players, and I said, hey, it's hard for her to score from the bench. Like, get her butt back in the game. Quit being mad at her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things of, Porter has to understand, like, the only way this team, and I'm not against starting Dayton at all. I mean, to me, start Dayton and Fears both. You got a higher upside than starting Duke Mile. I mean, Duke hasn't shot the ball well lately either. So while we worry about that, start both of them. That's fine. I mean, obviously Bryson deserves to start. But
here's a guard set. What about Fears, Forsythe, and Goodine?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, exactly.
Those are 3 guys that can shoot the ball. Now, I know
here's a novel idea, Jeremy. Play your best 5 freaking players. Don't give a crap about what their position is.
I know. I really think last night he had the mindset that he was going to give Forsythe big minutes, but when you get 4 fouls, there's not a whole lot you can do. But the thing is we're just my whole mindset in that is this is the coaching mentality coming out in me is you have to send a message. And sometimes you got to send it to your best players. Yeah. And Fears needs to know, like, hey, how you're doing it's not working. And so
whatever makes him tick, figure it out and freaking fix it.
Yeah. Hey, the toughest
thing. Or guess what? You and him both won't be here next year.
Well, the toughest thing with coaching is figuring out what motivates each player because each player is different. And you know what? Fears might need that kick in the butt. Being like,
maybe he does.
Everybody's told him how great he is his whole life.
Yeah. I mean, do you think he's ever been benched in his life? Probably not.
No. And that's what I'm saying is like Dayton's going out there just on the ground.
You think Dayton never had before this year? I mean, would it not have been easy for him to pout?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the deal. Dale beat the living crap out of most people in 2A for the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Dayton, wasn't sitting on the bench, guys, when that butt kicking was happening. This is the guy who's used to playing. He went and played high-level AAU. He started and was big time in those deals too. I mean, these cats aren't used to that. But it's not, one of my good friends, and I think I mentioned this on the last pod. You can coach a lot of things when you don't have to coach effort.
Yeah. And
right now, Porter's having to coach effort with Jeremiah Fears. And if you're having to do that, you can't coach anything else. No. That's it. If you have to coach effort, you can't coach anything else. Hey, and he's got to figure out how to get past that.
And I've caught myself watching the guys, like, especially in rebounding, because, like, I've been so frustrated in rebounding.
Oh, you been doing this?
Yeah. I'm like, this is elementary stuff. Like, if you got a team that's shooting threes or shooting outside shots, which is
opposite long.
Why are you going underneath the rim?
We get those anyway.
Yeah.
If it goes to the net, we get that anyway, bud. So, just FYI.
Like,
we don't have to catch that one.
I mean, how much tape have you watched, Steve? And like, if you watch that, that would be the first thing I brought up. Like, why are we underneath the rim?
Yeah. Pin on the backside, boys.
Yeah.
Pin on the backside. Hit and get. Let's go. But it's effort, Jeremy.
It is.
And like the frustrating thing is going back to listening to the unofficial 40. Like, it was interesting to hear. Like, Carrie watched last night's game and had some like positive vibes about it. Yeah. And then George and Eddie. Eddie was real negative in general today. But there were some positive things there. I mean, like the more that we saw is the more we need to see. It is. The good iron that we saw is the good iron that we need to see. The foresight we saw was who we need to see. And here's the deal. If we were in a crappy league, that's 3 players playing well, you probably go win. We're not in a crappy league.
Yeah.
Okay, we're playing the 15th best team in the country last night on the road. You can't win with 3. You can't. And so we didn't.
Yeah, not to mention that we have number 24 now, Vanderbilt, which in the beginning of the season looked like a winnable game. Now they're ranked in top 25. So that's what I'm saying is, like, where are we going to find these wins?
I mean, it's get better or get fired. It's just that simple.
And I honestly think that it's kind of like when we talked about Venables. Like, Venables probably going to go somewhere else if he gets let go and just kill it. Porter, some guys are meant to be small school coaches.
I mean, do we think Shaka Smart was a bad coach? Was Shaka a bad coach at Texas?
No, heck no.
No. Okay, he wasn't. But has he been a lot better at Marquette? Yeah, that's a better fit for him. Maybe we're a bad fit for Porter. Now, before I let you go, before we end on basketball, I do have a name out there. This is the conversation JR and I were having today. We're talking about who, if Tulsa and OU both fire their basketball coaches, who would that next person be? No, I'm not throwing my own name out here, guys.
Jeremy Downey.
Yeah. Now, the name that would interest me, if you remember a couple of years ago when the Porter thing was happening, one of the hot names other than Porter was Grant McCaslin, who's now was at North Texas and is now at Texas Tech. I'm not saying hire him. Let's hire the next Tim. Ross Hodge, who is at North Texas. If you get a chance, watch a North Texas game. And like what they do defensively is they just say, here's the side of the floor. You're going to play on it. We're not going to give you ball reversal. We're not going to give you skip. We are going to squeeze you to death. It's some old, like Larry Eustace, old school Bob Knight type stuff. And, we're going to have to be gritty and tough. And so that's my early name. And, hopefully this all works out with Porter and we get on a roll and we win 5 or 6 more SEC games. Don't think so. But that's my name I'm giving you today is Ross Hodge from North Texas.
Well, and here's my only thing against that is this might be Joe C's last hire. And I really feel like he's going to try to make a splash for the next hire. Like, remember when he got Kruger? We were like, holy crap.
Whoa. Yeah,
Lon Kruger, we didn't realize that Lon Kruger was even in the mix. So I think he's going to go after a big name.
My only caveat against that, Jeremy, is I think if we do have to get rid of Porter this year, and I do understand that. My only counter argument is there's only so many dollars, and whose big buyout might we have right behind that?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, but then you're going to get
Venables.
The fan base is ready, but also too, like I said, Joe C's last hire could be that because if Venables don't work out, Venables and Joe C's gone. I'm just telling you, and it is a start from scratch, build our program up. And
that's not what we want, guys.
No.
Those of you saying, I hope that happens.
Unless you're saying Joe C's gone and they're putting Patty Gasso in as the AD. That's the only person. But what I really feel like is I feel like if we do have to hire a new basketball coach, that he's going to try to go for a big splash and show the fan base that we will spend money on basketball because what's the main thing that people have been saying? Like when basketball season comes around, it's like, well, nobody spends money on basketball. Well, no, because it's not what butters our bread.
Yeah. But I mean, the only two sports, as much as, and we'll use this as kind of a segue to kind of let you know what's coming up. I mean, much as everybody around here loves softball, and, you know, all that. The only two sports at OU that turned a profit last year were football and men's basketball. Okay. Even as craptacular as they've been, it's all about the dough. And men's basketball and football are the tails that wag the dog. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just it. You know, if you can be good at men's basketball and you can be good at football, that's great for your whole university.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it. And so we've got to hope this works. But my thing is, even more so than Brent, is, you know, once again, guys, we're having the same conversations about Porter we always have. And the back's completely against the wall. We got to, you know, the drive for 5. We'll check on you these next few weeks and see if we get there. But as of right now, it just does not look promising for us to get to that 20 wins to get to the NCAA tournament.
Hey, before we get off basketball too, just because I said I'd plug her name in our pod. So, but we were talking about Dale basketball, and our friend April, her daughter is, her name's Kinley Bullard, and she is a sophomore at Dale. And guys, I'm telling you her name because, like, she's a stud. And she started as a freshman for Dale, who was the number 1 ranked team. They lost last night, but she's a number one ranked team, and she started for them. They lost the state championship game last year, but she is a machine. And I keep telling our friend April that she's going to score big points right now. She's just one of those. She's like Dayton Forsythe is for OU right now. She's a facilitator. She rebounds. She does everything. But keep an eye on that name. I want her in an OU uniform. So Jenny Bronchick, I'm sure that she's listening to our pod right now. So
someone else who needs some help with some offensive systems things too. Because good Lord, our press break and our ball handling on the women's team is something else. But big game for the women Saturday, top 15 matchup. Got an email about that coming up here on Saturday. So if you're able to make it out to Lloyd Noble, on Sunday. If you're able to make it out to Lloyd Noble on Sunday afternoon, go up there and support the ladies. If you can be at Lloyd Noble on Saturday, support the men. Lord knows they both need it. And, you know, hopefully positive things are coming.
Also, too, before we get into what we got coming up next week, I don't know if you heard Patty Gasso at Rudy's last night. She did her little kind of interview and stuff like that. Every year, OU softball goes to the Mary Nutter Classic. It is the biggest tournament, starts season, and they go there every year. This year they didn't go, and everybody's like, why are they not going to the Mary Nutter? Well, you want to know why people love Patty Gasso? This is it. So she said, everybody has their hands out at Mary Nutter, and it's a great tournament. We get great competition, but we decided not to do it this year. Instead, we're going to go to San Diego State, Loyola Marymount, and Long Beach State, which is their alma mater, and play there, because that way we can sell out all 3 places and make them more money. And she said that Loyola said, well, we won't charge admission. She said, well, if you don't charge admission, we're not coming. And why she did that is because she said in the softball game, the non-Power 5, Power 4 schools are getting lost because of all the money being spent and all the money being made in women's softball. So if we can make them more money, that's more beneficial to us than us going and making more money for our program. OU softball, I mean, like Steve said, yeah, did they make a whole lot? No. Unfortunately, with women's sports, it takes a lot. But OU softball, they know that their brand and their name.
Well, that's the definition of getting it, Jeremy. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, like, you usually will say, like, it's bigger than the game, and you want to grow the game and that sort of thing. I mean, everyone throws the word GOAT out there, easily. That's why Patty's the GOAT.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, like, she gets it, guys.
Yes.
Like, she gets it.
She knows she's at the top tier of women's softball.
And I mean, like, that's, I mean, that's
Make
getting
sure
it. That's what it's about. And
so I just love that.
No,
like that means
no,
that
great
me,
story. I saw that. I saw that clip. Saw that clip today, and she was getting some good national pub from that, and deservedly so. And here's the deal: she's not, and she wasn't saying that to advertise that. It wasn't about look at me and look how nice I'm being.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's like, we're still going to go try to beat them. This isn't some goodwill tour, but at the same time, she's trying to grow the game. And also, guys, she's not an idiot. Where do you think, where do you think some of the best softball players in America are from?
Yeah, she knows.
Okay, California. Okay. And so guess what? Playing out there in front of those recruits, in front of those families, and watching us beat somebody's eyes shut probably does pretty good in recruiting too.
And some of the biggest names that's come through OU softball, like that started the foundation of build our program. Shay Knighton, Sydney Romero, those are girls that came from California. Patty has no problem in California, but what she's doing is make sure that they all know, like, we've built this ungodly powerhouse.
Let's just hope California doesn't steal Patty and try to put her in as governor to solve the wildfire problems while she's out there.
But hey, you know what though? Everybody keeps talking about is Patty done, and I think she's getting closer. But I think her son's going to run it, and I don't know if we necessarily miss a beat because he is the mastermind behind their hitting. And he's just that behind the scenes guy.
She's not going to leave it in a bad situation, guys.
Heck no.
Not.
Kind of like Bob was. When Bob left, everybody's like, "Oh, why did he leave?" He left because he saw Lincoln Riley. And guys, we can hate Lincoln Riley all we want. It's not like we went down from here. So it is what it is. But
you said Lincoln had another kid. Oh no, never mind. I'm sorry.
We don't talk about that. Remember?
That was that's an inside joke for those Twitter warriors. Search Annie Hansen.
Hey guys, but before we get off here, next week is a must-listen pod. The great Eric Bailey is going to be with us. We're going to have our softball preview because we're going to be recording the day before OU softball's here. Finally, a team we can back.
Winning. #winning.
Hey, you might not understand this, but we do have programs that can go out there and win. Most of it's women's sports. But that said, Eric Bailey's we're gonna do a softball preview. We got so many new faces this year at OU softball that we're gonna bring in Eric, and he's gonna help us out a little bit. But he was nice enough to come on. I waited to bring him on for the softball preview because me and Eric have known each other for a little while, just from our daughters both playing competitive softball. So we see each other out and about, and I messaged him and I said, all right, it's time. And he's ready to come on. So it is going to be an awesome episode. So you don't want to miss it. So make sure if you're not subscribing to our YouTube channel, do it now because it's not, you know how much money you got to spend to do that? $0. So
same number of points Jeremiah Fears had last night.
Hey, remember, that was something I was about to mention too. Guy had free throws at the end. I'm like, he's going to get points now from free throws. And he misses both of them. I'm like, okay, this is the worst game I've ever seen him play. But yeah, it costs you guys nothing, but it helps us out a whole lot. So make sure that you're subscribing. Follow us on Apple, Spotify too as well. You don't want to miss. We've got some big guests coming on that we're really excited about, and we're going to work on some more guests coming on. So listen to my son right now. He is for some reason yelling behind me too. So, but yeah. So make sure that you're following us on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Listen. And want to give a shout out to the people on YouTube. This last week was our most view. We talked the week before how our views were low. Last week was our most views on any episode where we haven't had a guest. So as far as this day, Jeremy and I, side by side, it was the most we had. So thank you again for that. Send us an email, soonercast@gmail.com. Have a great week. Like as Jeremy said, be back next week, talk a little softball. Hopefully we can talk more positive basketball. Maybe we'll have a defensive coordinator. Who knows? But all that goes. Boomer, everybody.
Boomer Center.